Sure.
Welcome, thank you. It's really nice to be here. I haven't seen Stephen in a while, so this is a pleasure. We've known each other a long time. I don't know if you know that, but it's been like around 12 years.
Wow.
Stephen and I met because of a cat. Not an entirely well cat, but I saw a show with a wonderful piece that blew my mind, and we were working on a show at the Noguchi Museum at the time called Museum of Stones, and I couldn't imagine the show without this piece, and we made a connection, and but I think sort of more relevant, during the run of the show, you did a performance that I think is really helpful, maybe as a kind of introduction to what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Maybe you could describe what that was.
Well, Dakin invited me to be in this show that felt very important for me at the time. And so I asked, can I also do a performance? You know, the performance was called, I titled the performance Two Slow Falls, and it was a dance performance in the upper gallery of the Noguchi Museum, which was installed with some paintings, a few vertical paintings, and 4 or 5 or 6 scholars' rocks from the collection of the Met.
Yeah, the Met loaned us historic Chinese paintings and scholars' rocks to do an installation.
Yeah, there were some in the center of the space, and several works on a long ledge that's integrated into the architecture of that building, which was the studio building of Noguchi. And so I spent a lot of time in the room choreographing and practicing a performance, a 45, 50-minute performance that consisted of me. I think I turned a light off and I went from standing to all the way on the ground. Took about 20 minutes. And then this was at dusk. Yeah. And then I moved to another position in the room and did the same thing.
But longer.
Yeah, and darker. And that was then it was over. Yeah.
And we ended in complete darkness.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but it was wonderful.
Very dark. And an artist who's very important to me, Charmaine Wheatley, for many months told me, Stephen, you know, at the very tail end of that performance, everything was perfect. And then a security guard came up and asked me to leave, and it really broke the flow of the work. And so the question of where the work stops has plagued me ever since. The control concerns.
I'm guessing it plagued you well before that. I think a lot of the people here know you, is my guess, pretty well. I don't know if you have no half measures tattooed anywhere on your body, but you could and probably should. Your preparation, you know, I think part of what Yves is hoping that we'll talk about is what is sculpture, because obviously that's something you've wrestled with a long time. I'm not sure there's anybody out there working who has wrestled as much with post-war sculpture as you have, in rethinking, reworking, and remaking a lot of it from 1965 onward.
You mean remaking things that have been made, or just doing what other people have done to do that, to learn?
Reworking ideas, adding quite a bit, twisting quite a bit, but I mean, you systematically worked your way through. And when I say worked your way through, I really mean worked, because it's one thing to look at slides and think about minimalist sculpture. It's another to try to re-engineer it from the ground up and add something to it, which you have tried to do, or tried to do. That's what you were doing for a while. But that's an approach that you've taken with everything that you do, is Again, let's sort of set the baseline here. If we're thinking about what is sculpture, what are the kind of the preconditions of sculpture? What do you have to have for sculpture to be present in a performance like Two Slow Falls, which I would argue absolutely meet the definition, an expanded
Of a sculpture?
Field, an expanded field definition of sculpture.
Is this one on?
I don't hear you.
Is this on?
Did you turn it off?
I turned it off. Yeah.
That's probably a good
Check.
sign.
Check. Okay.
So would
You
consider
you
Two
think
Slow
that's
Falls?
a performance, or you think that's a sculpture?
I do.
I have retreated into performance every once in a while because afterwards it goes away. And sculpture.
You did just say that it's plagued you ever since.
Okay.
So it hasn't exactly gone away.
Yeah. That's. Yeah.
And I don't imagine that anybody who was there has forgotten about it.
I'm not sure. Okay, I'm gonna just try to speak without thinking too much, so that I give. Hi, Willie. So I can do good mistakes. I'm not sure I think about the ephemeral qualities of work as the work, or effects of the material as the work, because so the difference for me between a performance and a sculpture is a sculpture has to do its thing all the time, like through time. Performance goes away.
But, I mean, the reality is that most sculptures are so dependent upon their environments that whatever that core thing, that root thing is pretty flexible, pretty quicksilver, pretty hard to nail down, tie down. I mean, a lot of the impacts of sculpture are second order impacts, the effects that they have had in one way or another on other work, other ways of thinking, other ways of being.
But is that the sculpture, or is that the effects of the sculpture? Maybe for some people the contingencies are, maybe it is thought of as an expanded field, but maybe just for my own sanity, I've turned toward the material, even if it's a fantasy, the material as the object, or as the stuff I'm working.
I'd say that's a necessary fantasy for a sculptor to have.
Yeah, or a necessary delusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is for sure. I mean, I think, again, to have the preconditions for sculpture, you have to have somebody who's thinking about sculpture, what I would call the culture of sculpture. Mm-hmm. And that includes materiality, mm-hmm. and includes the reality of sculptural logistics, processes, techniques, methods. There's a whole way of thinking that is sculptural. And if you're applying those, I think no matter what the material is, you're producing sculpture. Mm-hmm. I think I'm here because of this long time connection with the Noguchi Museum. Noguchi famously said of sculpture is the rock, it's also the relationship between the rocks and the viewer and the space that they're all in. All of those things qualify as sculpture. And you're messing with all the parts of that and all of those relationships.
The cover for the elevator buttons. The new panel that covers the elevator button lights, for example. Or what are some other things?
The civilian, so we have surveillance camera. When the power is on, there will be a green lit. We're using black tape to cover the green electricity light, so it's full black.
Here, I wanted to remove them completely, but came up against the constraints of the insurance policy.
Yeah. If you're building a museum and you're willing to take the time, you can actually change the color of all of those key legally required signs.
Through legal means?
Just by getting special approvals from building departments, but it takes a long time. But if you're, say, Renzo Piano, and you really want green exit signs instead of red exit signs, you can get them. You just have to work at it.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as an artist. sometimes you have
Well,
to
you
work
can get
the
away
room.
with stuff
Yeah.
when it's temporary, part-time.
Yeah.
But let's talk about. So you've got 3 sculptures in this show.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Would you call them all sculptures?
Well, I'm not actually sure if I'm not sure about. I think this might be an installation.
Is that a subset of sculpture? Does it matter?
It's something you do. You install, I guess.
I'm
The thing about this is an instance of this production method of making resin on glass and applying it to existing glazing.
Just since do you want to describe the process or rather not describe the process?
I can describe it. So I made these panels with Rich, who's here in the back. We went to the forest in the Sierra foothills where the stone in the central room is from, and gathered about 70 pounds of pine rosin from the trees. And we refined that rosin, boiling off the terpenoids, turpentine, essential oils to make resin, like you'd use for a violin or something. Filtered it, poured it through sieves, laid it out like glass candy, crushed it, heated glass to a certain temperature, and dusted the dry resin over the panels so that it bonds. That's the technical steps that we took to make these 100 and something panels.
Perfectly clear white glass is a pretty new phenomenon.
Well, this glass is leaded, or not leaded, but it is green from the edge. All the edges of this glass are trimmed out, so you're not seeing a lot of distortion. But it's also, this glass is also annealed? No, tempered. So if it fell, the consequences would be less devastating.
I'm not sure we have to issue like a safety rating.
This is why we're sitting here and they're sitting over there.
Yeah, the panels are on the inside, not the outside.
As is the resin.
It's the resin, right?
So
That
we're
can drop
maybe,
on us too.
we're either on the inside of the tree or
But it's for a long
outside.
time, in many places, the pane of a window was a piece of vellum, of animal skin that was just scraped really, really thinly. And it produced a pretty similar effect, a pretty similar color. I think you probably also, many people were achieving this color when this was a tenement, 100 and whatever, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Just by smoking every day and being very neglectful about the use of cooking oils and
Yeah.
things.
Well, it carries on because you might find this tint in your mother's garage door window.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, we have a lot of amber glass, pressed glass, cast glass.
But I think I just turned mine off. Is that better? Okay. Not to be jokey about it, so you've transformed the way the space feels. What is that for you?
Well, I ended up making a work with the resin to address a sculpture problem that I had, a tendency I saw in my own work, which was that I tended to make individual objects, freestanding individual objects that did not integrate with that were singular, or maybe call it singular. And I thought, well, if that's a bit like a tree, which, maybe that's not really the appropriate way to think about a tree now. But if I was making trees, what would it mean to what would a sculpture be that that was a forest. Yeah, as a kid, when I would draw, I would only draw like singular objects, not a whole scene. And I think I've kind of somewhat addressed the visual world as like a set of autonomous objects, or there are relations, but I think in terms of the singular, and maybe that's what draws me to sculpture. But I wanted to see, well, can I break this a little bit? How could I make something that's more like a forest? What would a forest be? Well, maybe a forest is known by its affects or its effects and its qualities that aren't any particular single thing. So that, I ended up making something that could fit really nicely in different art historical moments, either in Arte Povera or in the 90s, installation scene and stuff. So we're moving forward, trying to catch up.
Someday.
Yeah. Someday I'm going to trip over myself and find...
There's another really nice Noguchi phrase, I think, for what this accomplishes, which is one of Noguchi's definitions of sculpture was something that affects the environment of our awareness, which I really like. The idea that our awareness is a space, and various effects or objects too. Objects are capable of doing this as well. An object can format its environment. An object can reformat your brain. An object can do a lot of things. But there's something nice about removing the object and just ending up with the environmental effect.
Yeah, do you know the magazine, what's that magazine Dexter Sinister made? What was that called? Yeah, ... There was a publication made in the Lower East Side 10 years ago or something. And I went in and I couldn't read it. The typography was just everywhere. It was unclear to me how to engage with it. And I thought, well, maybe this isn't for me. Then I talked with David, the guy who made it, and he said, oh, well, we think that the work makes the reader too. I was like, oh. Maybe I'll give it another try. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you before we leave this piece and maybe talk about a couple of the other ones. What impact do you think the amount of time that you spend on the process of producing any given work, because your process is definitely not Doge approved. You would be the first thing cut for inefficiency in any system, any situation, because the way that you work is you find an incredibly materially rich idea that requires quite a lot of learning and experimentation, and it's like in a way, every body of work you make is like a startup project where you're starting at scratch, essentially. To what extent do you think that ends up in the user experience? What percentage of that, or what percentage of our experience of the environment that you've created with these panels? I mean, just looking up at their, wonderful irregularity is one of the first things that you notice about them. But how much of what we used to call or would call craft is important in the impact that the installation has?
How important is the craft?
Yeah, so the idea, the devil's in the details, but so is the divine. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people would argue, take two bowls that look substantially the same. You've made a lot of bowls. There is something different, especially if you're able to handle them and spend a fair amount of time with them, feel them, use them. ultimately, there's a big difference in the field between a handmade bowl and a machine-made bowl.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, one, like to begin, I think that the trajectories and decisions around that also have to do with just the quality I want in my own life. The slower I am allowed to work, and actually I feel like Rich and I worked pretty fast on this. It was measured, but this was an intense production process that was far more structured than my typical work is. But I was saying that the slower you work, well, it's not always about speed. It's not even about time. It's about tapping into a durational mode of experiencing the world. And if I get to give myself time and space to let the work unfold, I get opened up to the qualities of the world and options for how to move and make decisions in the production. And that's a pleasure.
Do you think that pleasure is important again? And does it come through in the work? I know you're probably the last person to judge that.
Does it come through?
But I would say it comes through in the work.
Sometimes I've made a work that feels like a success, and then if I try to like echo the same path, maybe the second one approximates the first, but to me, sometimes I just end up with a bad copy. And I don't know if that's like kind of just an internal emotional experience of efficiency, of trying to produce efficiency, or if it's actually in the material. I really don't know. Yeah. But there have been a few occasions where I've made works under pressure, too fast, and then I've just destroyed them after. Because it's kind of painful to, maybe it would be better, more therapeutic to stay with the problems, but I have often expel those experiences like they're cursed or something. So yeah, I don't keep a lot of stuff around the studio to inspire me. I just try to focus on one thing at a time and stay with it. And sometimes that takes a really long time. Like the work with the stones, I've completed 3 stones like that, and I've been working on that for over 10 years.
Yeah, the only time I spent an appreciable amount of time in your studio was when you were starting to work on 2 of them.
Yeah.
And we're experimenting with different ways of approaching them, which was covering a really wide range. Maybe just say a little bit about, first of all, where you got these rocks, why you got these rocks, and then what they did just sitting there in your studio as you thought about, because you had no I may be projecting here, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but my sense at the time was you really didn't have any idea what you were going to do with them.
Yeah, because most stones don't need you to do anything to them. They don't need you. It's inorganic.
Been around a long time. A lot's already happened to them.
Yeah.
They're pretty great to look at, which is why you wanted them in the first place.
Yeah. I almost titled this show after this. So the show's called Ghost Stone, but I almost titled this show after a kind of sludge metal song by this band Harvey Milk called "Life is the Best Game in Town and Death Goes to the Winner." So that's what it's like to sit with a rock and just try to figure out what to do. You did it, and then you die. I don't know. I don't know. Actually.
You've had other rocks that you just kind of did leave alone.
The first piece with a stone I ever made was in college, and I had got this piece of basalt from the Farmington River, another tectonic rift on the East Coast, a volcanic rock that came up, and I just put it in a crate and made a logbook, and whoever sat with it could log their hours, and the logbook would travel with the.
Just time spent with the rock.
Yeah, well, it all got lost, It's all just lost somewhere. I'm sure the rock's still around somewhere, but.
So you don't necessarily have to do anything with them. But what led you to think that you should do something with these ghost rocks, which are kind of like scholars' rocks, right? They're very porous. They have hard parts and then inclusions of softer parts.
Yeah. So I moved to San Francisco with Clemmy 8 years ago. And there's a pretty big culture of stonemasonry and stone work in the Bay Area. I worked for a mason briefly and saw this odd stone that had a lot of cavities, and it really interested me because it didn't quite look like a scholar's rock. It wasn't limestone, it was actually quartz. And I couldn't understand how the diversity of negative spaces could have come about structurally from this stone. It was filled with a softer stone that was decaying. It was receding as the quartz was remaining. So there was some differential erosion that had happened, but it was still quite messy. And so I traced back through a few different masons and stoneworkers where the stones came from. And they were from a former gold mine called Liberty Hill Diggins, Diggins, in the Sierra foothills. And the area was one of the first places where hydraulic mining had taken place for the gold rush. And hydraulic mining was uniquely devastating in that the companies that did it would build a set of pipes from lakes up high, and they would drain the lakes through tubes into these water cannons. And they would blast these water cannons at very high pressure to wash the soil down chutes, and they would filter it all out and look for gold.
And when you say soil, really, it was entire mountainsides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hundreds of feet of land just dropped. And they would try to catch gold, and the rest of it would go down and plug up the rivers and farmlands. And very quickly, this type of mining was terminated because the rich farmers closer to San Francisco wouldn't have it. But it left this odd site where a lot of material had been moved, and ancient boulders along the quartz vein remained. The area was something called mudstone, full of mudstone, and the quartz had only appeared in the mudstone when pressures would make cracks in it. Water would carry silica, and it would make plains of quartz. And they would this quartz water would fill anything that cracked. And so underground, supported by the mudstone, you have these kind of like monster stones growing, composed of various fractures joined. And after the mining happened, these things were revealed and still kind of embedded in the mudstone host. So when I learned about that history after visiting the site, it was clear that here I could do something to this stone. I could accelerate the natural erosion and bring out these ghost stones.
And what's neat is the quartz is a lot harder than the mudstone.
I had that going for me.
So
yeah.
the mudstone was the mold in which the quartz rocks were made, but then when the quartz rock comes out of the mountainside, it's holding a lot of the mudstone, which is softer than it.
So, yeah, I spent 10 years decontextualizing some environment, I guess. Yeah. or
So-
liberating, or
Well, so talk about
relocating,
here in
or
New York,
also-
you know,
yeah.
more than 10 years ago, what you were doing with those first ones and why it was, either of those two complete?
Andres and Julia know where the original stones are. They're in their yard upstate. The original 4 stones I attempted to work after transporting out here, because I was living here at the time, I was working with very large carbide chisels, like this big. If you hit the mudstone at the right angle, you could pop off large chunks and retain the thin quartz planes. But it was very difficult, and some of those stones had other metamorphic stone integrated, so the delineations between the different materials were less clearly articulated.
And the quartz,
I didn't know. There was also like a kind of manzanita bonsai that there were 2 on one of the stones, one living and one dead, and the other died, so there were 2 dead in my studio. And I had a bonsai specialist from the Brooklyn Garden come try to save it. And good friend Jen Sue, who's a master gardener, came over and said, "Let it decompose, put it back into the soil." I was so relieved. Just put it back in the soil, yeah. Oh, thank you. So you take on a little bit of responsibility after you extract material from a historically dense site of, extraction. Moved to San Francisco, continued the interest and fascination with these particular stones, kept revisiting the site, and ultimately I developed a set of tools and techniques for removing the stones, the soft stone, which was influenced by conversations with geologists who helped me understand the chemical composition of the mudstone. People who clean gems professionally gave a lot of advice. Technical tool salespeople.
it's interesting, you've ended up producing something kind of analogous to a gold nugget.
Say more.
Well, it's just, it's a bit of a paradox.
Oh, that it's kind of a gem of sorts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might mention too, just quartz. Part of the reason quartz is important in the history of mining is that it's one of those things that was an indicator of gold. So the miners would go looking for these quartz veins.
Yeah.
They loved to find them when they were blasting these hillsides apart,
Yeah.
because to them it was an indication that there might be veins of gold present or beds of gold present.
Yeah, they tended to crush these types of stones also. They would just crush them to see if there was any in there. When I had a few of these in Brooklyn, in Bushwick, there were 4 or 5 neighborhood people who stopped by and said, "Oh, you got a little gold in there, don't you? Let me take a look." So it's like some people some people some rock hounds
They'd
are
watch
hanging out in
something on
Brooklyn.
YouTube,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
how to find or where to find gold. So do these have a relationship to viewing stones for you? Is that an important point of reference?
Well, they certainly look like
Yeah.
them. We have viewing stones, which covers different cultural territory. You have Japanese
Scholars'
viewing
rocks,
stones, scholars' rocks, with different particular codes of conduct in each discipline of what you're going for, or what the typical forms are. But I think these are non-represent. I think of them as non-representational, and also because they formed supported on all sides. I think that the organic qualities and diversity of planes and trajectories kind of liberates them a bit from the representational demands of the other genres of viewing stones, or distinguishes them from the other genres.
Just to throw another Noguchi thing in there, because it's always nice. Noguchi liked to make these fountains out of basalt, and he went against the tradition. In Japanese gardens, you have basins that catch water, and water can overflow from them, but they were never motorized. Noguchi actually turned them into motorized fountains so that water was running through them at a regular rate. And so you're moving a lot of water over the stone all the time. And that means that water was doing what it does. Water, at the end of the day, is always the winner. But what's so interesting about the relationship between a stone basin and water is that if you take a snapshot at any given time, stone is the sculptor and water is the material, because stone is giving the shape and water is taking the shape that the stone asks it to take. But over the long term, of course, water is the sculptor and stone is the material. So you get this great, sort of arc of time and a totally different flipped relationship over time. You have something similar going with the absence of this mudstone, because it's the mudstone that again formed the quartz in the shape it's in, and then it's vanished, which is really interesting, just leaving its shape.
Yeah. Or the mudstone, well, it didn't form the quartz, It's like you get in where you fit in, or whatever. But funny thing about the...
But basalt forms that way too. I mean, almost all rock in the earth, inclusions of rock in the earth,
has to find a place, one of the curious things about the sculpture in the middle room there, which is called stone.
Not ghost stone.
No.
Just stone. Yeah.
Just stone.
How long did you workshop that?
How many people did I ask? Because it's less about, But is that I find that it is most satisfying when it's wet. So we're just constantly spraying it with water. It feels better. It's thirsty, just wants to be wet. I want it to be wet.
That's a long tradition too.
Yeah. And I learned that when I was working for a summer as a stonemason assistant on a garden path for, I think it was the guy who made the iPod, Johnny Ive. This guy.
Yeah.
This is who can afford stonework. Before the client comes, just wet everything. Just get it as wet as possible. 5 minutes before they're coming, you gotta wet everything. And
that's classic, because that's, you take a tradition of hospitality, which is what it is in Japan. Before you open your restaurant, if there's a stone patio in front of the restaurant, you wet the stone. It's a sign that you've prepared the space to invite people in and welcome people, because it looks more beautiful, the stone.
It really does.
But you turn that into a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
To snow your client, who's arguably the most important industrial designer of the last, 50 years.
You tell me. Yeah. But every time it dries out, let's get that wet again.
Let's talk about bases.
Oh yeah. So we were going to prepare for this talk a few weeks ago, and then we spiraled off talking about pedestals, and we had said, we have to stop because this is going to get juicy.
Right. So maybe just it's a saga for you always.
Are there any sculptors in the room? Can I get a hand? Okay.
I don't know what a sculpture is.
Dakin has an idea of what a sculpture is. So the pedestal question, or questions.
Yeah, when, how, if, why separate it from whatever? Does it want it? Does it need it? Is it good for it? Is it bad for it? Does it help? What does that mean?
Who's it for?
Yeah, who's it for?
Who is any of it for?
Yeah.
To whom do you answer? Yeah.
Right, it quickly devolves into everything.
Who am I?
Right, yeah. No, it is. It's like walking into therapy, and before you know it, you're a puddle on the floor and you're ready to give up. And I know that sometimes pedestal thinking takes you to that place.
To where?
The really bad, like, I don't have any idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't need the artwork anymore.
Right.
I have the pedestal, yeah.
Yeah. So what, just maybe talk through that with this particular
Well,
rock.
I really thought I had a lot of time. For many years, I thought I needed a pedestal for this stone because the resolution of the labor of the removal is at the level of a
Like dental pick.
dental pick
Yeah.
over the entire thing. And if you look carefully, you won't see that I did anything. And I thought, wow, if it's such a high-res sculpture, maybe I should bring it up so you don't have to get on the floor to see it. But what would you be seeing, It's also heavy. What am I going to put it on? Didn't want it on the ground because I wanted you to see it. But I didn't want to put it up because I didn't want to pretend it wasn't a stone, which tends to find its way to the ground. There were a lot of concerns. So I probably made 7 or 8 different types of pedestals. I made 4 different concrete block pedestals with different grinder finishes. I made a rammed earth pedestal from the dirt that the stone was living in. I made 3 wooden pedestals, 1 end grain maple glue-up pedestal to match the gallery floor. I made some walnut slab pedestal. I made 3 rounds of explosive ceramic pedestals that destroyed a friend's ceramics, also in the kiln. So if you look very carefully, you will find 1 ceramic shim under that stone. I brought 50, but I only needed 1, and it's made of some of the clay from the site. There's a lot of clay on the mine
Left
the
over
mine.
from the hydraulic blasting.
Just from the earth turns over I don't actually know I don't know exactly how clay gets made. It's decomposing schist or something.
How much longer do you think it's going to take you to realize that anything that you put that much time and thought and care into is going to draw attention to itself?
Well,
That's
let's
the
say
problem
which part.
That's the problem with bases.
Bring it back and tell me what part.
Well, so the harder you try to make a base that doesn't try too hard, the more you notice it. Because you're bringing all of your craft and care to a thing. This is one of the genius things about trying to make just like a plain concrete block. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to just call somebody on the phone and say, I want a concrete block that's X by X by X, you will get something that you can use. But as soon as you try to make it into a thing that's not going to interfere with your sculpture, it's almost impossible to make something that will sit back that way.
Well,
there has to be a difference in care between the thing and the thing that's just supporting the thing.
Yeah, or you just don't do it. You just don't end up doing it.
Or just don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the time it's, and that's how you end up on the floor.
Yeah. Well, I felt good about the shim because it actually helps keep it from tipping. And that's great, What? A hole? Oh, it wouldn't do that. It would just roll. It's just the weight of
It would dent the floor.
2 or 3 of us.
Yeah.
We wouldn't fall through the floor.
The shim, I didn't actually see the shim because it's
pretty dark in there.
It's pretty dark in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What color is it?
Well, I fired at a cone 10, and it's black actually. There's a lot of iron in there, At cone 8, it's purple. And
Did you consider that?
I made that, and circumstances. Some people left town, couldn't fire. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to convince people, get people to help. Like, it takes. I have two options. I had two options. 50 options, 2 colors. There's a brown shim, and then the other shim that's black. But we could do other colors that just need a little more time. And then maybe we could find a spot on the floor where we don't even need a shim. You know?
could, or you could shape the floor.
I've done that.
rock.
I've done that sort of thing before. Yeah.
We did that to pedestals all the time.
Yeah.
That if you contour the pedestal properly, you don't need any
Just
kind of
change the
shim.
floor. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can always fix the pedestal after the fact.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something explicitly that we've kind of been talking about, which is truth to materials, or the idea of respecting your materials. Is that a word that means anything to you? Respect?
Respecting the material. Well, I will say that to begin, like what a material is. Years
maybe
ago,
going back a little too far.
Years ago, I was buying like some mahogany, which probably wouldn't buy mahogany anymore, but I was buying some mahogany wood like 15 years ago for a sculpture. And I was like, what's that place up in the Bronx where you get hardwood? I don't know what it's called. I was there and I was like, this mahogany looks like a lot more pale than what I thought. And they're like, yeah, it moves around. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, what constitutes mahogany? When we run out of it over here, we do, this is mahogany now. No, this is mahogany now. It's like, well, they're all related, right?
Because mahogany has a good price point.
It has a good,
Yeah,
it's a good price point.
It's good to move stuff into that category.
Yeah. So what constitutes a material changes over time culturally. It's like there's a word for the thing, and then it's a category, and you throw things in it. So that's why I think it's like sometimes to call things by a name is. I told this to Michael and John of Foxy Production, who I worked with when they had their great gallery. I was naming something like a deadpan name. I was like, get it? And they're like, get what? I'm like, yeah, it's a bell, get it? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what's a bell? So I thought that by naming something like directly, that everyone would think, oh yeah, what is a bell? But so when we talk about material, it's like, wow, it's like a set of it's like when you encounter something in the world, probably not pre-linguistically, but like with language, then you can like say what it is, and then the is of identity. It just describes what it's not. But then like you really get into it, you look at the glass, it's like, well, it's there's negative space, it bounces light this way, like it will be known by its qualities. So you actually have to get in there. There used to be this fetish, I don't know if it still is, there used to be this fetish for like putting all the materials on the material list. Like, this is made of this and this and this and this obscure thing. There was like a cachet.
That's the restaurant menu style approach to
it happened. It's highly curated, But
Well,
I
okay.
forgot the question.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track.
You're dodging. Let's just talk about there's sort of two main ways to go about working with stone, or have been, and they had strong opinions about each other and developed sort of in antithesis to each other. So you can take stone and just make it do what you want.
Yeah.
And that's most of the history of stone working in sculpture.
Hylomorphic.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's called hylomorphic.
Hyromorphic, okay.
You impose your form.
Totally. You have an
Yeah.
idea, maybe you've made a model in clay or some softer material that's easy to force to do what you want.
Yeah.
And then you go to stone and you transfer that idea by some mechanical way, or you get somebody to do it, or you can do it, or whatever. But it's making the stone do what you want. And then this idea developed that maybe there was another approach, which is the kind
Free
of,
jazz.
Is that
I don't know.
okay? But it's in the early 20th century, it became associated obviously with Brancusi and the idea of sort of informally working with the material and at least kind of taking into account what it might think about what to do with it.
Yeah. Or what kind of feedback you get as you work it.
And that developed around a particular kind of work, which is why it was possible. It was a good way to develop biomorphic abstraction because you weren't necessarily after a specific image. You could kind of find your way to something that sort of felt right. And stone was pretty good, actually, it turned out, at helping to provide a structure within which to find shapes that were biomorphic but not too specific. And that became associated with this idea of truth to materials, that in some way that was more respectful of the material than just making it do exactly what you wanted it to do. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about that? Have you developed your ideas in any way in relationship to those historical ideas?
Well, I've made work both ways, and I'll say two things about it. The second path I find more pleasurable, and there's more to learn in the process. I carved a figurative sculpture using myself as a model at full scale during the pandemic. Made a clay model and carved in wood the sculpture. And, that's a reductive process of carving. The higher resolution my carving became, and this artist Frank Benson warned me about this, the higher resolution it got, well, one, the more work there is to do, and the worse it gets, actually. It gets worse. It gets a little bit worse because everything falls out of relation, and every piece you took away, you can't put it back. You have to remove something from somewhere else. If you've ever tried to cut a circle with scissors and construction paper, it just disappears. Yeah. You have to learn when to stop. So learning when to go and when to stop, I think, is important for both of those modes of production. These particular stones provide all sorts of information about when to go and when to stop, given the removal process I was interested in. And has been a wonderful relation with those.
I mean, what is neat about what you've produced with these rocks is that you could achieve a substantially similar effect just by replaying the methodology of strip mining. Because if you took a sufficiently powerful power washer, you could blast all the mudstone out in,
Well, they have been power washed. No, you can't. It's harder than that.
How much mudstone is left in them?
You can't see any, but internally there are chambers that are locked up.
That are still full.
So when they get their boiling water baths, afterwards they still drain oxidized liquid if you give it a bath. But okay, so it's not quite like that. If they were left to naturally, with the natural differential erosion, you would not achieve a visually holistic removal, because I've worked differently in each area, and parts of the quartz would fracture, degrade, if the removal were consistently applied. So my task has been to gauge the diversity of requirement and pressure and techniques to actually bring out, if the weather were involved, if it were just the weather, an impossible object. You wouldn't actually see the stone like that.
Probably not impossible, but it's like the
Improbable.
The million monkeys
That kind of
producing
stuff, yeah.
Shakespeare
Yeah.
situation.
Or you could just wait to find the right one. Just lay them out and wait thousands of years. Yeah.
Just as long as it takes.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting, anybody interested in Scholars Rocks thinks a lot about this because there's a lot of evidence that Scholars Rocks were farmed, and that the farming was quite sophisticated in ways, so that you could kind of get a river to do what Stephen has done with this rock just by covering up parts of it, and then putting it back into the river and letting the river erode it, so that you can make certain holes bigger. You could change the shape of it in somewhat targeted ways to achieve, which is just sculpting.
Yeah, you tie a rope and move it around. Make sure
It's
you don't lose
sculpting
it.
that you pretend is finding.
Yeah. Yeah, and like my labor there is pretty invisible, except we're doing a talk, so.
And it's in the dark.
It's dark-ish.
Darkish, yeah.
Thank you to everyone who helped me develop my confidence to turn the lights off. You know who you are.
Hey, let's talk about that. Just the single worst thing about working, there was basically nothing bad about working at the Noguchi Museum. It was a dream come true. But there was one horrible thing that I had to do. We used almost no artificial lighting at all, but museum opening parties are at night. And a lot of them don't happen in July. They happen in like November or February. And so we frequently had to light the entire show just for the party. And like we could do an installation in 2 days and then spend 3 days lighting it for a 2-hour party, and lighting it in a way that ruined all of the installations and every effect that we sought to achieve in the installation to begin with. Lighting's a big deal. It's wonderful to work with. You actually have done some very sophisticated lighting for the gallery. The stone is benefiting in ways that it probably is a little uncertain about or doesn't quite fully understand how it ended up in that room or isn't in this room. Maybe just talk a little bit about that, about it. So it ended up on the floor. It ended up in a room without light. It's sitting on a ceramic shim that is, a very highly considered and well-crafted object. What do you think it thinks about its current situation?
I don't think it thinks, actually. For the record, I don't think the stone thinks.
Well, let's take it as a metaphor.
Okay.
If it could think,
Yeah.
how might it assess its situation and the significance of its situation?
I think it would look out at each and every one of you and think, well, let them see what they can see. Yeah, let them look. Let them see. Let's see what they see. I thought, wow, if I don't turn those lights on, you're going to see the stone? Are they going to see it? Well, you do see it, and then your eyes adjust. It's not that there's no light, it's that the range of light, there's no electric light, and then maybe the range of what you can and can't see narrows. But the conceit I'm leaning into and I've kind of learned and been taught to lean into is like, just a little bit can be enough. It can be enough, just a little bit.
It can be a lot more, actually.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's the genius. What you've just described, I think, is exactly right, which is that if you put artificial light on it, you've essentially put it into a torture chamber or the proverbial rubber room where nothing ever changes. It's fixed in one state.
Yeah.
If you shine these lights on it and from a particular point of view. If you just let it drift, with the light available, you give it a chance to have a normal day.
I thought about, we didn't talk about this, Eve, but I thought about cutting another hole. I thought about cutting a big hole here.
To give it a window?
Yeah, but then, that's a lot. It's hard to sheetrock back in that kind of space. And we didn't talk, I didn't ever bring it up, but I think, yeah, that like a little bit can be enough. And if we can find opportunities in art to affirm that, then maybe it means that we could slow down the overproduction and a lot of anxiety around quantity and what constitutes a contribution in the arts.
This really is a genius sculptural idea that is incredibly important, I think, because the way that you're showing it is the high resolution way to present a piece of sculpture.
I don't understand.
Lighting something with very bright artificial light is incredibly low resolution from the point of view of form, materiality, making something that's part of its environment, changes with its environment, affects its environment. Because again, you've just fixed it in a single, you might as well just have a photograph of it. There's almost there's almost no need for it to be present. And in the space that it's in, you've basically eliminated all change. But you've produced something that requires a lot more finely detailed looking, thinking, taking in, more of the environment than you would otherwise.
And actually, I do have, before the show, I took a photograph in my studio with natural light. Very satisfying, dynamic, just plain shot, straight on, few views. And having the photograph, I think, even though we're not really sharing it much or anything, helped me feel comfortable to affirm the installation here, because there is anxiety about losing, about loss, or things being losing information, material. But actually, a lot of the stuff in the show is fluid surpluses and.
So I think we made a pretty good case that the thing works really nicely in the semi-dark. Maybe it wouldn't be very satisfying in full dark, but you have made a sculpture, and the third sculpture in the show does work really just fine in the dark, in any lighting condition. That's Belle. Right. Belle has also been produced through an incredibly laborious, very complicated process. Do you want to just quickly sketch that?
There's a bell on the door. It's an edition of 30. It's a form I have made on one other occasion. The black sand iron from the granite in the Sierras behind the mine breaks down and flows through the rivers down to San Francisco, where it washes up on Ocean Beach near where we live. And it's these black bands. Once I went down there, the woman said, "Don't touch that, that's toxic," but it's iron.
In fairness, it is toxic if you eat,
don't eat
10 pounds of it.
Don't eat it, it's very heavy. That's iron ore. It was just delivered to San Francisco from the mountains where the stone is. And so I've worked with kind of backyard metallurgist who specializes in recreating production processes of pre-industrial sword making.
Of course.
Yeah. Berkeley, yeah. And Jeff Pringle helped me to smelt, and then I cast these iron bells in little sand mold. And so that's the sound. That sound is a little quartz pebble from the mine little rock clanging against the iron or the iron from the granite that hosted that.
Did you know that, had you messed with any iron bells?
Yeah, actually, like for an exhibition in New York or in San Francisco, I wanted a bell for the door, and I'd collected so much of that iron before, not knowing what to do with it. It was in 5-gallon buckets in my studio, and I went to go get a bell in San Francisco, and I bought one, and I was holding it, and I thought, oh, well, I guess I'll return this. I can just make it. I can make one, make my own. It feels weird to buy a bell and put it in a art show. So I thought, well, what does it feel like to make one? And I did that. And it's wonderful because in a show you can hear when someone comes in, you can hear when you leave. There's a Pauline Oliveros piece where they do something like sing when someone comes into the room, sing a song for them, and then you're in the room, then you sing a song, and it's nice to be announced sometimes. And I think it works great. Yeah.
Do you have any idea what frequency it resonates at? Like, what are we listening to?
No, but they're all a little different. Yeah, all a little bit different. You could try them out. Yeah.
So the show is some yellow light and indeterminate note.
Yeah.
And a rock on the floor.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Thank you, Dakin.
Really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being here and listening to us. Eva, is there anything that we missed that you would really like Stephen to address on camera with a microphone? Yes, please.
Yeah, questions?
I think we did pretty well.
Hi,
Lois.
Eric.
How did you design the shape of the bell? Where does that come from?
That's an embarrassing question. Thank you for asking. That's a very embarrassing question. Thank you, Eric.
No, I'm wondering.
I know, that's, and I'm about to tell you. Yeah.
I never ask questions anyway.
It's great. All right, so there are a couple ways to make a mold for a bell, and I actually don't like the idea of making molds because there's so much extra stuff you have to use. I like to have the material and then reduce it. Just feels it's easier to think. But with iron, you have to do a mold, and so I first decided, I'll turn something on a lathe, because I had a lathe set up in my studio. So I turned some wood on a lathe and ended up with just a straight kind of cup. And I was unable to, the density of the mold packing material, of the sand, and the thinness of the bell made it difficult for the negative space to hold. I was unable to take the form out without destroying the sand. So I needed to make a mold that was I did a mold that was called a burnout mold, where you actually leave the positive form in and let the heat of the metal burn it out. And you can do wax if you make a ceramic or plaster mold. It's a one-time kind of complicated professional way to do it. Or you can do kind of busted technique where you burn out foam. So you need a high density foam. The foam comes into 2-inch thickness. So the bell is 2 inches tall. Now you have to carve the foam. The foam does not want to be cut very clean. You could cut it with an X-Acto, but it tends to tear. So it's telling me that it wants a textured feel. So I use a grater, and rasps to shape it. That's why it looks kind of feathery, kind of Totoro-like. And it's the simplest shape I could come up with, and it looked given, but didn't allude to too much stuff. It was like maybe a little bit generic, maybe a little bit, but it's actually full of qualities. And I'm embarrassed that the positive form was a 2-inch Pink Panther foam. But that's...
You made these lovely things in one of the most evil materials invented by man.
And I burned it into the atmosphere, you know? That's like nasty. That's another like myth about being an artist, even doing reductive sculpture. Like, it looks like, oh, this just arrived. And I like that feeling. So much material, so much fuel, so much travel, so many mistakes, so much wasted lumber. It is not like one stroke and it's done. You know, it's not like Leo Fan or something, or like, it's not like that simple. There's so much, not entropy, but so much expense, so much expenditure to make the art the way that I make it. Yeah, and that's kind of true. Yeah.
I'm going to play us out with the bell that is at our front door because we love it. It's nice to live with these things. Let's see, here we go. I didn't fake any of that. That's like real New York City. Just the New York City street with a Stephen Lichty bell. Thank you.
Thanks, Dakin.
Sure.
Ooh, we earned it. Good job.
What?
I don't know. The privilege. No. Thanks, Dakin.
Thank you. No, I'm so glad you're back in New York with
Briefly,
the show.
yeah.
No, but it's wonderful.
I think
It's been a while.
5 years.
5 years.
It's way better than the last show, so that's good.
You don't have to judge them.
Well, okay, yeah. Keep moving, yeah.
Because your opinions about them will change
Yeah,
over time. It's better to just let them change and not try to like
yeah,
pin them down.
yeah,
Get them in order.
yeah.
Get Rolling
Yeah.
Stone to rank them, or whatever people rank things these days.
Yeah, let it be. Let it be.
How many jokes did you get about? Where is your self-portrait now? What was it called? Is it just self-portrait?
Leaning figure. Yeah,
Where is it?
it's in Italy in storage. They really want it gone because it's a big piece.
Yeah.
I'll probably move it back to California, or maybe they'll take it.
You just have to put it on a really slow boat. It would look great in here.
Oh yeah, as long as it's dim or something. Yeah, that's a good point. Group show. Yeah,
It's a perfect thing.
Great.
For a group show. I love, I'm sure everybody who knows you loves the fact that that's your pandemic selfie obsession.
yeah. Everybody got one. Yeah.
Everybody had one.
Oh,
But yours was again I do it the hard way. Hi,
Yeah.
my name's Stephen. I do it the hard way.
yeah. It turns out.
Whatever that is, that is the path I take. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna run home to my kid's birthday party.
Hey,
I have
lovely.
to go do cake and presents and.
It's my good friend Brett.
Hi, Dakin. Nice to meet you.
No, it's just like illuminated, yeah.
Outside they do have some.
Yeah, it looks done, right?
It's really interesting. I thought the remark about like the synthetic light delivering full resolution. It's kind of the same. Like when I first met you at your first exhibition at Roxy, you were like speaking comparatively about there's a Platonic solid kind of piece, and then the cat sculpture. And you were like, Platonics, like they presented me with two different modes of information. Like you know what the Platonic solid, you know, it's not satisfying to move around in space because you already know what the other side looks like. It feels like the same realization with the lighting condition.
Oh, that you already know what it's like to see it,
or you've already discounted it in some way. Whatever information
when it's available to you.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
On that same trajectory or something where like the condition delivering you more information than you needed
is impoverished. Yeah. Yeah.
That one delivered quite a bit in its details.
Yeah.
You know, the combination of materials, the reveal between the two pieces, there was...
Yeah, there was a lot, but I think you were thinking about it comparatively to the basalt, and you were like, it really makes you move around it.
Totally.
Right.
It's kind of like, what are these conditions that can kind of provoke
engagement?
Looking?
Yeah.
Deeper engagement, deeper looking. Without like deliberately obfuscating.
Yeah, deliberately,
Yeah.
It's like, I will... like I defer to the sun, you know. I defer to the sun.
If you're going to defer, that's a good idea to defer to the sun.
I defer to that burning star. Yeah.
But that's kind of your
ethos
is like the form exists within. It's just a matter of not extracting, but allowing it to emerge.
Yeah.
And normal change does that.
Yeah.
If you let it.
Yeah.
Over time.
Totally.
Nice read. Nice read, bro.
15 years of knowing you.
Yeah. We did it. We'll get another revelation when I'm 57. Well,
you're 42?
I think so.
No?
I was born in 83.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a little bit of I have a little bit of runway left.
You do.
Did you lay these out before you came?
Like which goes where?
Sequence?
No. It's kind of straight out of the box. Except these Bambi plates.
Yeah, did you have to remove the fan?
No, the panel, they slide up and down, so I just brought the one down and loaded it while the other was up. I need to use the restroom.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to run.
Okay.
Give me a hug.
Thanks.
Yeah, really nice to see you.
Let's take this.
Yeah, I get it. I don't want to walk away with their
Gear.
Thanks.
That's the magnet side. Yeah. There you go. You too.
There was a stretching class for ballet dancers and professional dancers, and then me. And the first day I showed up, she says, I'm not a wrestler, but we could occasionally do things. And the class consisted, the first part of the class consisted of you roll down, like over 20 minutes of video. Solid so that you can release and then stand up. Less effort. But if you have to do it, because dancers, it's a muscle all the time. It's kind of like, beautiful. I got more engaged in there's still like so we had to do
that's what the movement was going to do. Great.
Which one is that? Okay.
Are you do okay. You gotta run. Harrow has what they so far is the oldest forest. Not petrified wood, but fossils of the root systems when trees were just beginning. Wow, cool. Harrow, New York there. Okay. Not public sector. Yeah, I mean, but I don't want to get your hopes up because
I wanted to see that. I wanted to understand how theatrical it becomes. A lot of the qualities are actually from the existing world. So like all the glass, the grid, sculpture, it's all just from outdoors. It was really transformative to bring it in here. Yeah. It's just the diversity of how so I have it like the dry resin. So I have a hot plate of glass, each panel, and heat it up, and then take the dry resin and like tap, and then dust it on it. So just let me know. So it's like making candy or cake or something like the powdered sugar. So it's like sometimes I spill, sometimes it's less. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ben.
So up there I have existing glass and then a metal frame, how it was, and then another one. So I have a new beam attached to it, and then there's a new glass panel sitting underneath each one. So every window that was here, and a new window. I just So here is like where the glass was really hot, and when I dusted the resin on, it bubbled and make negative spaces, you know?
What are they? What are you going to do with them after the show?
I don't know, because
Can we
it's not.
recycle them?
Well, I could take the resin off, but the glass is. It's been heat treated so that it won't break into large pieces, and so you can't recut it actually. So it's kind of like the piece it's called forest, and there can be many instances of it. You know, it's like a work that could be here or here, or many at the same time. So we don't have a plan for the physical material here. Yeah.
Let's definitely schedule a time to chat, and I'll also ask you
That'd be great.
and performance you did.
Yeah. That was really. It was a really good performance. I made two. I did one in a Richard Commercial House in LA, and then we did one in San Francisco at a dance festival at ODC. But I was lucky to perform I'm just here for Tuesday. I have a 3-year-old, so we'll be going to the park, playing. I know I was wondering, you also have a gala coming up or something, right? Oh, you did? I used to give stuff for the auction, you know? Two or three times give a piece for the auction. And do you know how they used to do it? It was a very nerve-wracking experience. Okay, so
They like having one in the room.
no, everyone's there. Everyone's, okay, you give the work, whatever, you get to go to your thing, right? But then, through the night, they call numbers, and whoever gets number one, they say what piece they want, and then you cross it off the list. And you go, and so there's someone has is the last pick. You know what I mean? The artist is so intense. Yeah. It's not good for the market. That's good. was really intense. I was almost like, it was nice. I was about a third of the way through. They got me up front. No. I mean, you buy a ticket for $1,000. But just having your work on there and be like, are they going to choose me? Because they tell you, a banker who wasn't really a collector, a dealer takes out the work. Well, that's great.
So with that, that's what I do have a big that I Thank you.
an aunt who I just found out lived at this comedy
Yeah.
which I guess was pretty famous and stayed as its own movie theater. And it was big. And I was saying to her, like, I was like, I've noticed that there's kind of more like political comedies, and then there's more that seem like more spiritual, or kind of like.
Yes, I mean, you can see.
Yeah, definitely more on the spiritual side. Than the activism side.
Well, there is
And I
one
was
spot
like,
in the senior,
where did
Cunningham.
your comedy fall in? They're like, well,
There's just a no one, we would have never known.
well,
Like,
I think it was just about like spreading love and like
but
showing
then,
that
I mean, it
people
all
could
looks like
happy together. You know, just sort of like saying that it's not whole. I met her
So
at
then
this
we're
family
going.
reunion, and we were supposed to all have dinner together
But then,
in a restaurant, which was like,
so we haven't, they haven't.
and we
I know
already
very
eaten there the night before, and we were supposed to go out, and then we canceled. And I said to my family, like, do you want to go? Because like, do you want to go like get some food somewhere, pick it up, and like explore the place.
I just did some.
Mine, we checked in with relative, just kind of organized things.
Not as close as
Food,
this.
we come back, we're eating it, like, you know. This is fucked up.
Yeah.
You didn't tell